Welcome to the Legal Advice in Paradise podcast, brought to you by www.legaladviceinparadise.com. Even in one of the most beautiful places in the world, life can be litigious. On this podcast, the best and brightest legal minds gather to help you navigate your way through every legal question you may face. This program will help you know your rights, know what steps to take, and help you find the best legal representation, all in simple, easy to understand terms. And now, here's your host, Justine Gronwald.
Aloha, and thank you for tuning in to our next podcast episode. Want to make sure you never miss an episode, as well as get tips on how to hire an attorney and be eligible for monthly prizes? It's easy. Just join our free membership called the Agent of Change membership. Text your name and your email to area code 808-670-3400. Make sure you text back agree. And also, to check out our past episodes, just log into www.legaladviceinparadisepodcast.com. Now enjoy the next episode. Aloha. Aloha, Agents of Change. This is Justine again with Legal Advice in Paradise. And I have a very special guest today. I'm very honored and privileged to have Duke Aiona.
Thank you.
Who is now running for governor of Hawaii. And so I just wanted him to introduce himself. And I'm going to start off by saying that you've had a very illustrious career.
I have. I have been very blessed to serve the people of Hawaii in many different, I guess you could say offices, public offices. So
right.
I started as a law clerk for Judge Wendell Huddy. Then I became a deputy prosecuting attorney here in Honolulu, and then became a deputy corporation counsel with the city and county of Honolulu, and then was appointed to the bench. The judge. I was appointed to be a district family court judge, and then a family circuit court judge, state circuit court judge. So in the legal profession, yes, I've been blessed to serve in that capacity, in those capacities, I should say, and it's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. Yeah,
and I was just telling you before we started rolling here is that you've seen practically everything.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
From both as an advocate as well as a jurist, as a judge. Yes, I have. I've seen a lot.
Yeah, so I'm going to stick to my notes because I know we could go on forever and ever. Also, you were involved with the drug court program as well.
Yes, I was.
If you could go a little bit
about
that.
In circuit court, I was appointed. At that point in time, they had it in basically the criminal division and the civil division. So when I first got appointed as a circuit court judge, I was placed in the criminal division. So I called it the revolving door. I kept seeing the same defendants coming back. You place them on probation, they violate some of the conditions of probation. Usually they use drugs again, and they would come back. And so your options are basically limited to either throwing them in jail or giving them probation again.
Yeah.
And so some of the defendants, they were placed on probation for sometimes the fourth time.
Yeah, but I did have an interview with Peter Carlisle, and we talked about that revolving door.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I said, there's got to be something that's much more effective than what we're trying to do right now. And at that point in time, the drug courts were starting. The way we know it now was just starting to evolve, and it was a kind of carrot and stick type of program. So in other words, the carrot was that if they went through the program and did well, then their record would be, abolished. In other words, wiped out.
Right.
If they didn't, then they would be placed in jail and they would have a record. So that was the carrot and the stick. And the main feature of it was that they would be getting services. In other words, whether it be inpatient or outpatient services for their addiction. And with that, court supervision. So it was sort of, I called it forced treatment. In other words, okay, you're either going to get the treatment or you're going to go to jail.
It wasn't their free will.
It really wasn't. But you know what? It worked. I mean, just to without going into all the details, it worked, and it's been a very successful program.
That's good.
Not only here in Hawaii, but across the country. When we started it back in 1990, it was 1995 when we took our first clients, but it was about 2 years in the making. You know, we had to basically, you know, get the program down, the curriculum, etc., get everybody on board. It took about 2 years, and then when we finally got it going, we were only about we were about number 100. There had 100 drug courts across the country.
Wow.
And what was unique about us was the fact that our programs are what you would call culturally appropriate. In other words, we didn't take that cookie cutter program that they had in California or in Missouri or somewhere else and then put it here in Hawaii. We kind of developed our own, and that kind of caught national attention. And so a lot of other programs started to basically, I wouldn't say mimic us, but they borrowed from us.
They took a lot of good elements.
Basically it was, and that's really what it's all about anyway in treatment, right? In the treatment field is taking the best practices. So they looked at what we had and they adopted some of it.
Yeah.
And now in Hawaii, we not only have an adult drug court program, we have juvenile drug court program, we have family drug court program.
And you also had a leadership role in keep children alcohol free.
Yes.
I mean, when I read that, I'm like, children.
Oh
wow.
yeah. Let me tell you. So that actually evolved when I became lieutenant governor, and it was an initiative by the spouses of the governors throughout the country. And most of the spouses of the governors throughout the country were females. And our governor at that time, I served with Linda Lingle. She didn't have a spouse,
right.
So I was her spouse, and I was just interested in that area. I shouldn't say interested. I have a very strong passion for it because I've seen a lot on the bench and also just in my experience in the community. Seen a lot of tragic fatalities happen when it shouldn't happen because of drunk driving, right? So what that was, again, it was a leadership. It was called Leadership to Keep Children Alcohol Free, and it was evolved around the whole issue of underage drinking.
Yeah.
People don't realize this, but the number one drug of choice for our young people under the age of 18 is alcohol. Because it's readily accessible. They get it from their homes, they get it from their parents, they get it from their uncles, they get it from their brothers, etc. And so that's the number one drug of choice, and the cost is astronomical. But in being involved in that organization, and of course in some other things that I do, I can tell you that one of the saddest cases I came across happened in Montana, and I read about this through, of course, my work in that organization. 2 10-year-olds died of alcohol poisoning. 10 year olds in the forest.
Wow.
Because their blood alcohol content was 0.32. Now, just to give you an idea of what that means is that 0.08 if you were driving means you're legally intoxicated and you can't drive.
We covered that with Attorney Paul Cunny the other day.
Right.
And 0.3.
0.3, so that's almost 4 times the amount.
Wow.
4 times
10 years old.
And they were 10 years old. Right. That's probably one of my saddest stories that I read about. But what's happening now, the trend with alcohol, is that they're getting younger. In other words, the users of it are younger, and it's more intense. In other words, most of the drinking you see from the young people under the age of 18 is what you call binge drinking. In other words, 5 or more drinks within a couple of hours.
They're escaping from something, that's for sure.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for it, right? That's one of them. The other one is just basically experimenting, right?
Yeah.
They see adults doing it, so they experiment. You're right, they might have issues that they're dealing with. So there's a whole slew of reasons why they drink alcohol. But that's troubling, the fact that they're binge drinking and they're getting younger and younger and younger. And again, it's about access. It's about just being very accessible, right? It's a legal drug for one thing, right? It's pretty much in a lot of people's homes, right?
Easily accessible.
Yeah, nobody locks it up, right?
Yeah. Because
it's illegal. So, huge problem that we've had. And so, when I did drug court, it was very gratifying at the end if they made it through. But this is where we came, where I came. I shouldn't say I came up, but where this phrase, this quote, is so appropriate. and it goes like this. It's easier to build strong children than to fix a broken adult.
Exactly.
I saw it in drug court.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, we had so much, there was a lot of people involved. You had caseworkers, you had services, you had the court system, you had attorneys, you had a slew of people working with these adults who, at the time when they come into the courtroom, they're pretty much on the tail end of it. They're broken. They're more than broken.
Right.
They've been addicted, some of them 20, 30 years. They've been doing, and it's been 20 to 30 years because they started when they were 14.
Yeah.
They started when they were 12. Most of the adults that came into my drug court were of that nature. So it was very difficult. And if we did, manage to help them and they were able to graduate from the program, some of them, wasn't too long before they're right back in it again. But the good thing about drug court was that they, for the very first time in their lives, they had support. They found a way out of addiction, and most importantly, they knew that it was all on them. In other words, if they wanted to make the change, they had to do it. So for a lot of them, they went off the path, but they could come right back on the path. So that was very encouraging.
Yeah.
But there were many successful stories where they've never done drugs again.
Did you work with NA?
No, they were a part of it as a support group. So we would refer people to it or have them make that a part of their treatment program. But that's not treatment itself, right? NA, Narcotics Anonymous, is just basically like a support group.
Yeah, because I just wanted to give a shout out to my baby brother, Eric. He's been part of NA and it's been clean about 8 years now.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So everybody's touched by this.
Yeah. That's the greatest feeling when you see stuff like that happen.
Right.
Because they have a lot to share, and they usually come back and share. So, the consequences of drug use and drug addiction, I can tell you, and that's why
it takes a whole team.
Exactly, and that's why I'm such an advocate about underage drinking, because people talk about let's legalize marijuana now. Okay. Put all of that aside. People say, well, it doesn't kill people like alcohol does. Well, okay. The people don't get violent. It's not like methamphetamine. I mean, those are all just basically, to me, the arguments that don't address what the real argument is, and that is, does marijuana lead to the use of other drugs? Right. And does it really benefit in the long run the person who's using it? For a lot of kids, because that's the second drug that I would say is the drug of choice for our young people. A lot of it leads towards other drugs. It is a gateway drug. A lot of advocates will tell you, no, it's not. There's no such thing as a gateway drug. Well, I can tell you, not only anecdotally, but through reports that I've read, that alcohol, marijuana, what you would call gateway drugs. All you have to do is come into drug court, because we get the history of our clients and say, okay, tell us.
What did you do?
Tell us, how did this thing all start? And 80%, 90% of them say, well, it started when I was drinking back, when I was 14. Yeah, no, exactly. In fact, what would happen is, when they would come into drug court, they would have to get tested. Okay? And so 9 times out of 10, most of them are dirty when they come into drug court to petition. And the reason for that is, it's like, this is my last binge. So I'm gonna party the night before, right? So I would always ask them that, okay, are you clean right now? And almost everyone would say, yeah. So I would say, okay, I'm gonna give you one more chance. I'm gonna ask you this question again. Are you clean? And they would, they're not looking at you, right? And they go, okay, so right there, right? So I say, okay, I'm gonna tell you this. You're gonna get drug tested right now, okay? I'm gonna get the results. And if the results come back that you're dirty, okay, you're either not gonna be in this program or you're gonna go to jail. So I ask you one more time, are you clean?
And if that's
and usually that's when they say, no. Because I tell them, if you come clean with me right now, we got a good start. Yeah. Because this is all about honesty. You got to trust me. You got to trust me that I will do what's best for you. But I also got to trust you. I got to expect that you're going to be truthful with me, right? Right. So it's a matter of trust between the both of us. Yeah. And so they would say yes, and they say, okay, so what did you do? And they would go, oh, last night, so I said, okay, well, what gave you a list? What did you, I never read this one guy. So he says, oh, I drank. I said, okay, what else? Oh, I smoked a little weed. Okay, what else? Did a little cocaine, okay.
Oh,
What else?
Dang.
That's all. I said, oh, really? Remember now, you're going to get tested. Okay. Then the list just went on and on.
So
and on.
you've seen everything,
So,
literally.
no, yeah. I mean, and, you know, it's, I can kind of, you know, smile about that now, but, you know, this is very serious stuff. And of course, like I said, the best thing that ever happened in that program is when they graduate. Let me tell you, there's not a dry eye. Oh no, believe me. I mean, myself included.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so heartwarming to see these people put, turn their lives around. And you know, for them, many of them, that was the first achievement that they've ever had in their lives.
That's fantastic.
First time they ever got something that was they did.
Right.
You know,
right.
because we give them a diploma, we give them all of that stuff, right?
That's the first time they're recognized, probably.
And then they get support, right? You know, and so and they're getting support from a judge, and that really made a difference for them, because usually authority, they're not, you know, they don't really trust authority. Okay.
Right.
So when that happens, it was really a good feeling. So
that's good.
it was a tremendous, that was a outstanding program and experience that I had in my life, and I took away so much from it.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that with us. So you've been in the trenches. You know very intimately how our judicial system works. First and foremost, what sparked your interest in getting into law?
You know, it wasn't something that I had since I was a child, where I said, "Oh, okay, I want to be a lawyer. I love the law." Neither was it as I was growing up. I saw some movies that involved attorneys and courtroom drama.
They look pretty cool.
Yeah, it looked okay, but it still wasn't something that was driving me. Actually, what happened was, when I went to college, I went to the University of Pacific in Stockton, and you had to declare a major, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and my dad always wanted to be an attorney.
Oh.
And so when it was time to declare, they had this new course of study called pre-law, and so I said, "Oh, I want to do pre-law."
Check it out.
And that's how I got involved. So I became a pre-law major, which is very most of the courses you took was predominantly political science type classes, government, civics, that kind of stuff like that. So
it's kind of like your launching pad.
Yeah, and that's how I took the law school test. And then got into the University of Hawaii. And I guess you could say the rest is history, because even when I got into law school that first semester, I wasn't really like, you could say overwhelmed. I'm not sure that overwhelmed, but enthralled and was saying, "Oh yeah, I can't wait to be an attorney." I was still like, I don't know if this is for me.
Yeah.
And after the first semester, again, my mom was the greatest in regards to just kind of inspiring me and just keeping it alive. She'd always say, "Give it a chance, give it a chance, give it a chance, give it a year, give it 6 months."
Thank goodness for Mom.
Yeah, so she said that, go give it a year, see what happens.
Yeah.
So I did, and by the end of the first
and
year,
look at what happened.
I was okay, and so here we are. So
Well, this show is all about giving people knowledge of their rights in various areas of the law, and what to do if they need legal help. And a lot of the guests now, we're talking about the consequences if you break the law. And what I tell people on the show, with knowledge comes power, the power to make decisions, hopefully the right decisions. But when that doesn't happen, what are your thoughts and advice to people if they find themselves in a situation where they need legal help and representation, be it in the area of family crime or drugs? What would you...
Well, if you are caught up in that situation where you've made the wrong decision, now you've been arrested for some criminal offense, it all depends on your on your income. If you make over a certain amount, you're not entitled to legal counsel via the public defender's office or another service. If you make X amount, then you'd have to get your own attorney, your own private attorney. But the people have this there is a stigma, I should say, about I guess you could say public representation, in other words, by the public defender's office. Believe me, they do a good job. They do a good job. So I would not shy away from that. If you qualify and you can get public assistance from the public defender.
Is that the same as legal aid? Is that?
It's a different.
Oh, okay.
Legal aid is a different agency, and they do just they're limited in what they in what kind of cases and who they represent. So public defenders will represent any,
Oh,
if you qualify,
Okay.
any criminal offense. In other words,
Okay.
when I say any, I mean whether it's theft, whether it's robbery, whether it's murder, they'll do it.
Is this
Legal
where-
aid will be a little bit more limited in I should say, in what kind of crimes they represent and who they represent.
So is that the same as court appointed?
Okay, what happens with court-appointed attorneys usually is if you meet that threshold, in other words, your finances are under a certain amount, and there is a conflict with the public defender's office, then the court will appoint someone to represent you.
Oh.
Because that is by constitution, constitutional right, you have a right to representation in criminal cases, not in civil cases, but in criminal cases.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. So if you're indigent, you make a certain amount of money that falls below that line. You are entitled to representation by either the public defender's office or by a court-appointed attorney.
Oh, that's interesting.
And usually it's when there's a conflict with the public defender's office. Otherwise, you have the public defender's office, and that's
Okay.
both on the federal level as well as the state level. So there's differences, right? Because of the crime. Some crimes are federal crimes, and some crimes are state crimes. Okay, so, and some are both. So you'll go to whatever jurisdiction, I should say whatever courtroom that has jurisdiction over the case. Now, if you make over this amount and you're not what they would term indigent, then you have to hire your own attorney. And I would say for criminal cases, for most criminal cases, it's probably in your best interest to at least seek the advice of an attorney.
Yeah,
To
and-
find out, basically, okay, what your rights are,
Right.
et cetera. And that's before you talk to the authorities, in other words, the police. Always try to get that assistance.
Yeah.
You hear that all the time, and that's true.
the
They say, under the, you have a constitutional right to remain silent.
Right.
If you want an attorney, one will be appointed for you. And that's true. That's in the setting, that's in the police setting, that's in the investigatory stage of a crime. Okay? So, yes, even if you're not indigent, if you're with the police and you ask for an attorney, they're supposed to provide one for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Or allow you to get an attorney of your choice before
Yeah.
they continue questioning you. So once you invoke that right, the questioning is supposed to stop. They can't question you anymore about if you're a suspect, and they warn you about that. They
Yeah.
tell you that right up front.
With some of the attorneys I've talked to so far, they really require that, or recommend that you should shop for attorneys. Don't just go with the first one.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean,
And I don't think most people know that, Because
Yeah,
I kind of
yeah.
did that, whatever falls into your lap.
well, you're not obligated. It's like
Yeah.
if you call an attorney, you say, "Oh, I'd like to discuss this case with you." They're supposed to, let you know that, okay, we're going to consult. And obviously, after you consult, if you feel comfortable and you want their services, now you can engage in regards to a retainer or
Right.
whatever fees
I
are there,
think-
and then
yeah.
become your attorney. If you're not comfortable, you can tell them.
That's the word, comfortable.
Yeah, it's like a doctor, okay?
Yeah,
it's
and
just
you're
like a doctor.
exactly what the other attorneys are saying. It's like a doctor.
Exactly.
You get your second opinion.
Exactly.
And you have such a wide array of choice. And what I tell people, the theme is that this is going to be a short-term marriage or relationship, however long this thing is going to last. So it has to be where you get along, and the also, if you're trying to solve something amicably, you don't want a pit bull attorney. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. And I go back again to this thing about trust.
Yes.
In other words,
yes.
you're gonna have to trust, your attorney. He's gotta have some credibility with you, right? Some integrity with you. And you can basically gauge that in that first meeting with whoever it is, a man or a woman.
It's like your first date.
No, it is. No, it is. I mean,
And you got to go with your gut instinct.
but it's a little bit more than that, because one, you're paying this person, so basically they work for you, okay? Because ultimately they can't do anything unless you approve it. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
So
I don't
attorneys
think
are,
people-
attorneys, like any agent, right? Whether it be if you were you were a talent and you were a musical star, and you hired an agent. Agents can't go around, basically executing contracts on your behalf unless you gave them that authority, right? But in the legal profession, even if they have to get your consent and your authority before they can do anything in a case.
Yeah.
And that includes, even when you go in and you pick a jury, I mean, you're right there.
I wish I
You know,
had that opportunity
you're gonna
in my
have
case.
to, you're gonna have to, they're gonna have to consult you when they start choosing jurors in a case.
That's good to know because, well, this is just me, but I think it's a majority of people, when they feel they need an attorney, it can be an intimidating process because we feel we don't know anything about the law. We kind of know a little, but we're just going to give everything to this one person. And they don't understand that, no, it should be a mutual thing.
Well, again, you trust.
And the trust.
You're relying on them, right, to give you the proper advice, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Because you're not the expert. That's why you're hiring them.
Right.
So so not only do you speak to them, but you go out and you ask people. You ask people in the community, what do you think about this guy? This is my case. Do you think he's good or bad? And they'll give you an honest assessment.
Yeah.
So it's like anything else, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna build a house. You're gonna get a contractor. You're not gonna get somebody who's not licensed. First of all, you're usually gonna try to see if they're licensed. And if they are licensed, you want to find out, okay, what kind of work have they done? What kind of, what have they put up? What have they built? And then, of course, have they been sued before? Do they get the job done? Right? And that's the same thing with an attorney. Okay, who's this attorney? What does he do? So in other words, if you're going to do a criminal case, you're not going to hire somebody, and this is a major criminal case, you're not going to hire somebody who's never done a criminal case.
Right.
You
want to hear something funny? I had a divorce on the second divorce, and we didn't use a divorce attorney. We used the business attorney.
Oh, yeah, a little bit.
And I was put in a corner, kind of like, anyway, that's just the personal side.
But there is, and because I wouldn't say it's specialized, but there are different rules in family court than there are in circuit court.
Oh, because you've been a judge.
It's a different practice, a lot of the attorneys know each other, and as such, it's sort of like I guess you could say, more like an association that's more, just accustomed to each other, so they know how to deal with each other. You bring in somebody who's now a business attorney that's never been in there before, it's pretty foreign to them, and they're gonna basically kind of wade their way through all of this stuff, and they can make mistakes along the way.
Oh yeah, I bet.
They can make mistakes along the way.
I sat with Bradley Coates, and he went boom, boom, boom down a list of things that you should have when sitting with him for a divorce and stuff. So, and
yeah.
So
it's like anything else that you shop for.
Yeah. Okay, so that's good. That's good to know. Now, because you've seen everything, and we talked about this already, consequences. What are the ripple or long-term effects that you've seen when people are facing consequences from the decisions they made? I imagine it's not just with them, but it affects family and communities as well.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, let's just take, for instance, someone who's committed a criminal offense. Well, the options are, very limited. You can either go to jail or not go to jail. Okay? So for you, that means loss of freedom.
Right.
Now, you have a family. Let's say you have a family, and the judge says you're going to go to jail. Well, if you're employed, you're probably going to lose that job. And when you lose that job, that means your family gets no income.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a struggle right there. If you have children, your children will see you less. Okay? And we're not even talking about the fact that you are now in jail. The stigma goes along with that, right? You're going to have to deal with your children in that and explaining to them why you are where you're at, right? And so you can see already where the consequences are going.
Yeah.
Let's say it's a family court case in which you are now a mother who is unwed, and you don't want to disclose, or you don't know who the dad is. Okay? And let's just say maybe you're not addicted, but you use drugs and alcohol, and you did it when you were pregnant. And they take tests. Okay, they test you, and they find it in your system. Okay, that did you have, let's just say you did some methamphetamine, right? And just before, a month before you gave birth, or maybe even a couple of days before you gave birth. Okay, and again, I'm not saying whether you're an addict or not, but let's just say that's in there. What's the consequences to that? Well, they can take away your child, okay, right there at birth, because there's no dad. They put him in a foster care, right? It's an infant. Now you have to basically get cleaned up. or at least show them that you're going to be responsible, you know, a responsible parent. In other words, fit and proper to be a parent.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can come about, I wouldn't say easy, but it can come about maybe within a limited or a short period of time. Sometimes it can't.
Yeah.
Now let's just say it takes about a year. So for a year, you've had either limited visitation with your child or no visitation with your child, all depending on what the, you know, what the circumstances are behind your use and what they find. Well, that child's living with a foster family. The child is growing because it's a baby. You know, that child is, in other words, bonding with somebody other than you.
Yeah.
So now you want custody of your child. You know, in the law, it basically says, okay, if there's basically no movement within a certain period of time, your rights can get terminated as a parent.
Wow, I didn't know
Oh
that.
yeah, oh yeah. So
I thought as long as the parent was alive, I mean, it's like automatic.
no,
you know.
no. So your rights can get terminated as a parent.
Thank you for listening to the Legal Advice in Paradise podcast. For more information, visit www.legaladviceinparadise.com.